I'm Keith Gaddie, Presidential Professor and Chairman of the Department of Political Science.
And I'm David Wrobel, Merrick Chair of Western History and Professor of History.
And we're teaching the Presidential Dream course, Making Modern America, Discovering the Great Depression and the New Deal.
The course involves a range of components. We have a series of lectures, including some guest lectures by some of the best-known people in the field. For example, David Kennedy, Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Freedom from Fear. In addition to the informational dimension of the course, we have a series of interactive workshops that take place in various archives across the campus, in the Digital Scholarship Lab, in the library. Workshops designed to give the students the skills to go out and make history of their own, to do archival research, oral history work, field research, to become creators of past knowledge rather than just consumers of it.
The course is interdisciplinary in nature, to teach students methods that come out of political science, history, literature, geography, library science, and also film. And the course is intergenerational in nature.
In addition to our undergraduate students, we have a group of students from the OSHA Lifelong Learning Program. We can more effectively reconstruct the experience of various generations during the Great Depression.
The greatest generation is helping the newest generation discover one of the greatest and defining eras in the history of the United States. There's a film series that features 5 of the great films of the 1930s.
Those films are Scarface, Our Daily Bread, Modern Times, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and The Grapes of Wrath.
There are 3 major projects that the students are undertaking throughout the semester. Project 1, Placing the New Deal in Norman and Oklahoma City, sends students out into the field to identify significant New Deal projects and to record and catalog them, and then to marry that information, photographic and other evidence, with historic photographic evidence of these major projects constructed by the federal government in Oklahoma between 1933 and 1940.
Project 2 deals with a reconstruction of the WPA Guide to Oklahoma. The WPA was the Works Progress Administration, and part of the Works Progress Administration was the Federal Writers Project. Writers in states across the country put together guides to the cultural resources of every state. Those guides collectively comprise the most remarkable record of cultural activity that we have for any decade in American history. The WPA Guide to Oklahoma is one of the finest of all the WPA guides, and we'll have students actually reconstructing those tours as then and now journeys, so that they can look back at the 1930s landscape, built environment and cultural landscape of the state and compare it with changes that have taken place over the last 7 or 8 decades.
The tours on the guide include 2 of the most significant highways in American culture, Route 66, the Great Mother Road, and also US 77, which is part of the Transcontinental Pan-American Highway, which is the longest highway in the world.
The third project we've called Landmarks of Greatness. And in this project, we're working with groups of students to help reconstruct the full cultural significance of some of the most important works of art, pieces of legislation, political acts, and other dimensions of the 1930s that still impact life to this day. So for example, students have some familiarity already, as does the general public, with the photographs of Dorothea Lange, including these photographs of children in California, and the suffering they are clearly experiencing during the Depression. But less well known are the photographs of Russell Lee, who worked, like Dorothea Lange, for the Farm Security Administration, and he took these photographs of life in the Mays Avenue camps along the Canadian River in Oklahoma City. The Mays Avenue camps were considered by one writer to be the worst example of poverty and destitution west of the Mississippi River. And you get a real sense of how desperate life was in Oklahoma City for migrant workers and their families in 1939.
One of the greatest landmarks of the Great Depression is John Steinbeck's award-winning novel, The Grapes of Wrath. And it is one of the centerpieces of the course as it is taught this term.
Won the Pulitzer Prize and was the subject of significant debate in the late 1930s and early 1940s. The novel was published in April 1939, the movie in March 1940, and that very same month at OU's Memorial Union Building, there was an exhibit featuring plates of text from the novel with photographs from some of those Farm Security Administration photographers. 40 plates featuring the story of the novel and the destitution that people were experiencing in the state of Oklahoma, and a group of students will be trying to reconstruct that exhibit.
David, I think it's really important that we talk about the reason why we got together to create this course. I'm a scholar of politics, especially 20th century political change, realignment, the South. You are
a historian of American culture. And as we talked with each other about what we felt was an incredibly important transitional moment in American history, we realized that those transitions that still resonate today, that still shape American culture and political debate today, deserved a full course, deserved the attention of ourselves, but also of a group of 50 undergraduate students and then another 40 lifelong learners in the OSHA program who could collectively help us to reconstruct those epic changes across the landscape of Oklahoma, the cities of Norman and Oklahoma City, and on the OU campus.
To this day, there are three great events that shape America. The first was the Revolution and the founding of the Republic, and then the Civil War, and then finally the Great Depression and the New Deal. And this era, the issues of the New Deal era, the Great Depression, resonate to this day. The political debate, the cultural conversations we have in America, all the change that was wrought from 1933 on, continue because of this event. For students to understand where we're going as a nation, we think it's very important for them to understand where the America that they reside in came from. If all goes well, our hope is that both the historical record and the individual student will be enriched by this experience.
My sense is that the students, in working on local history topics with national significance, become more closely tied to their community, to the state, as well as to the nation and its larger stories. In addition to that, the collaborative work that the students are doing, I think, can provide a foundation for success regardless of the career path they choose.